Hey guys, Lost here, and today I wanted to do a full review of Dayz 1.0. In the last week since its release, I've put in about 25 hours in the game, experiencing everything I can from on the coast to inland, firefights, looting, gearing up, and everything in between so I can get a full scope of what this update has to offer. When Dayz first launched, it was one of my most favorite games. However, I'll admit in the last few years I've had a lot of disdain and hate towards it, mostly due to its lack of progress. Also keep in mind that these last couple of days have been really the first time I've played Dayz in about 2 years, and a lot has changed since then. So with that in mind, let's talk about what 1.0 has to offer. So the first thing I want to talk about is optimization. We'll just start with the basics. And I'm happy to say that Dayz now runs at an extremely smooth and constant 60 frames per second. Now that's in the woods, in any town, every major city, Electro and Cherno. Dayz has always been known for its terrible optimization issues, and I know they've been working on it slowly over the years, but at least with this update, everything runs extremely smooth except for maybe a glitch or two here and there, but 98% of the time, 24.5 out of the 25 hours I played, the game was completely smooth without a stutter. Everything else, like handling guns or moving around objects, is also extremely smooth now. You no longer have to worry, if you click on one thing, is it actually going to work and do what it's supposed to? Everything really does run pretty efficiently and fairly smoothly. That includes player animations and zombie animations as well. Does it still feel like an alpha game? Yes, occasionally, but I'd say 85–90% of the time, all of the basic essentials seem to have been taken care of. Keep in mind, I do have a very high-end PC, but even back in the day, you would still stutter and have atrocious frames when playing the game. I'm glad that that is finally taken care of. Now let's talk briefly about the map in the game. Currently, the map on Dayz is the largest it's ever been, being about a third larger than when it first launched. There's even an airfield, a military base past where the Northwest airfield is. And there are large towns and places to visit all the way across the northern portion of the map. Also across the whole map, there have been a lot of visual enhancements, making the game feel a lot less empty. What I mean is there are broken down cars and more rubble inside towns. There's less long, empty expanses of road. Now, of course, those do exist in the plenty, but you might run across some military roadblocks or some broken down vehicles. It just makes it feel like you're more in an apocalypse than everything's empty. On top of that, almost all of the major locations from military bases to major towns have been reworked cosmetically, and some of their layouts changed. I do enjoy the graphic enhancements that have been added in. It definitely adds more flavor to the game. Now let's talk about the content, kind of the meat and potatoes of what I'm getting at here, and you might be asking, well, what has actually changed or been added into with this new update? And I have to say a couple of things. Nothing too crazy and too major. I know one of the main problems with Dayz Standalone is there's just nothing to do but kill each other. And for the most part, I would say that is still mostly true. One of the main active additions to the game would probably be the crafting system. It's something that I've definitely used more than I thought I would, from making more rags, making more spears, putting down fireplaces. You can also create traps so you can catch animals. Speaking of animals, they've also added in more so that you can hunt, and hunting actually is very rewarding. When it comes to guns, gear, and other weapons, there's not a whole lot. There's around 12 weapons currently in the game. It's enough to make it feel like you have some options, but not such an overwhelmingly large amount that you can really tailor exactly what you want or expect. There are 2 or 3 submachine guns, about 3 or 4 pistols, and I think 2 assault rifles, the M4 and the AK. Then, of course, you have the Mosin, and those are kind of the main ones that I can think of. When it comes to gear, again, there's not a whole lot, but there are a pretty decent amount of options. From casual survivor gear, hunter gear, or military gear, I've been a little surprised on some of the things that I found that I didn't really expect or I haven't seen in the game before. Again, I guess I wish there was more, but overall, it's not a bad amount. Now, through all this talk of content, I'm sure you're wondering probably these 2 major questions. Well, what about cars and base building? Now, I can tell you safely that in my 25 hours in 1.0, I have not seen or heard any vehicles whatsoever. Now, I've seen a lot of car parts for batteries, tires, hoods, doors, windows, all that kind of stuff, but I have yet to see an actual vehicle in 1.0. Now, keep in mind, I have not played on any modded servers yet. I have only played on official and community servers, so it might be different over there, but I'm only talking about for the base game for right now. Base building is still fairly primitive. You can find a tent, and there's a couple of things you can store in in, barrels and chests like that. From what I've heard, there is a way you can build bases. However, it takes a lot of materials, and those materials are very hard to get. Again, I haven't seen or heard of a single one in game. So overall, the fundamental gameplay and the way you play the game has not changed. You're still on your feet all of the time, you're running everywhere and looting. Now, I did just mention mods, and this is probably the largest thing that has been introduced to the game, and that is the ability for people to mod. Now, I haven't played on any modded servers yet, but it seems like that is the place to be. Players have implemented new gun packs and traders as well, so it makes it far more like Dayz mod used to be. I think if you play with mods, then you're definitely going to have a different experience. One more thing I haven't talked about is the zombies. In 1.0, there are far more zombies in every single town you go to, and they are pretty quick. Thankfully, melee mode is a very easy way to get rid of zombies if there's only a few of them. However, if there are a lot around you, it is very easy to get swarmed and knocked out. Zombies in Dayz standalone have always been a very hot topic of concern for a lot of players in the community. The zombies have been taken out, they've been put back in, they've been adjusted, and all sorts of things. But I think finally, this is an actual zombie survival game, and the zombies are in a pretty good place. So far, I've been trying to highlight all of the positive things that have been changed in 1.0, but now I think it's time to move on to the negatives, non-bug related yet. So this is really one of the first things I mentioned, and that is the stamina bar. Again, this has been contested, has been taken out and put back in because some people don't like it. Now, personally, I don't mind the idea of a stamina bar, but with there not being really any vehicles at all in the game, and running being your main mode of transportation, the fact that your running is now limited due to a stamina bar is fairly annoying most of the time. Now, I will give it that you do get used to it. I just think it's a very unnecessary change at the moment. Now, I have come to find out that almost every modded server has that taken out, so you have unlimited sprint, and let me tell you, it is far better that way when you're running all about the map. I mean, you thought Dayz was slow in the first place, now it's about 20% slower to get from point A to point B. Another concern I have with the game is the damage dealing capabilities of the firearms. I think they've somewhat reworked the health system so that you'll get knocked out when you go below a certain point of health rather than being hit in the head. Now, I'm not entirely sure on that, but I do know for a fact that I've shot people in the head with a 9mm pistol, a 45 caliber pistol, and I've seen people get shot in the head with a 12 gauge shotgun from 5 feet away, and they won't get knocked out. Granted, the times I've shot people, they were wearing headwear. However, it took a couple of shots before they actually went down to the head. Now, I think that's a little absurd. I don't know if it's like an overall health system they've added in or it's swayed that way, but I don't really like the way it's tilted right now. Dayz gunplay has always been a bit finicky, and I think it's still that way. Yes, the guns run smoothly, and most of the time, it's far more accurate than it used to be. However, it's still a little bit off. Now, I could raise some other issues about the potential accuracy of the guns. However, I am in no place to say I'm a great shot, so I'm not going to go down that road. Other than that, major flaws of the game, I would just hope for more content. That's probably the biggest thing at this point. Now, Dayz has always been one for lacking content for the most part, so that's kind of understood. However, I'm still looking for more things to be put in the game. Now, moving on to the one final negative, and that is the bugs. Remember when I said at the beginning, Dayz is the best it's ever been, however, there are still game-breaking bugs in it? Well, that's the portion we're at now. Keep in mind, I didn't go looking for these bugs, I simply played the game and then documented them as they happened. Some of the bugs were guns floating on people's backs when holstered, you couldn't take your food off the fire. In 3 different occasions, I swapped gear or swapped guns in the ground and they blatantly disappeared. Now, this didn't just happen to me, this happened to 2 other friends that I was playing with, again, about 2 or 3 times. Now, it doesn't happen often, and most of the time you can expect your gear to work correctly. However, when I put a shirt down full of gear to put on another one, and I lose all of the things inside, I definitely don't like that. I've encountered this one where if you shoot a badly damaged gun, it will get jammed and it will just be completely inoperable. You can't fix it. You can't use a gun cleaning kit. The gun just simply stops working forever. Now, that could just be, you're trying to use a broken gun. It could just be that. If it is, then I'm definitely criticizing that system in the game, because if the gun's not ruined, I think it should be operable. One of my major concerns are random server disconnections. I get disconnected from servers all the time, and no, it's not my internet. I run a YouTube channel, so me having bad internet is not really the issue. Call it public or private, I'll often get kicked right out of the server and be able to join back instantaneously, so it's not like the server's resetting. Random server disconnections is something that Dayz has encountered in the past, and no, by all means does it make the game unplayable. I usually get disconnected once every 3 or 4 hours or so. Oh, and I did lag and fall through the server once. My biggest critique with these bugs is they're just simply not 1.0 bugs. Things disappearing, guns not working, and things floating, those are not 1.0, those are pre-alpha bugs. If I had to talk to any potentially new players, I would say keep an eye on Dayz. You don't have to buy it yet, but keep an eye on it. Dayz has been discredited in the past, however I don't think now is the point you should discredit it. Am I optimistic about the future of the game? Well, that's hard to say, but I will say if there was ever a good point for the game to grow from, it would be here. Will they act on that again? Of course, that is a different story. But anyway, we are getting to the end here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you guys later.